mylife YpsoPump is the smallest and the most discreet insulin pump I've ever tried. I used this bad boy for the past 4 months and I can tell you it has some pretty amazing features, but it also has a few drawbacks. And I'll try my best to help you decide if the mylife YpsoPump is the right fit for you. Don't click away too early because at the end of this video I will be sharing a few observations that nobody is talking about, but I find them pretty important if you are deciding for a new insulin pump. mylife YpsoPump is made in Switzerland and it's kind of like a combination of a Swiss knife and a Swiss watch. Reliable, versatile, and unique at the same time. While it has all the standard insulin pump features we are used to, it's a rather minimalistic pump in terms of design and navigation. The pump comes with a 4-year warranty, but Swiss things usually don't break, just saying. You have the option to use this pump in a manual mode or as part of a hybrid closed loop with Dexcom or Freestyle Libre CGM and a smartphone app, but more about that in a minute. One thing that really stands out is how small and sleek the YpsoPump is. It's about 3 inches long, less than 2 inches wide, and just a bit more than half an inch thick. You can see the exact dimensions on the screen. When you take the YpsoPump in your hand, you'll immediately notice that it's a lot lighter than any other tube pump you might have used before, be it Tandem, Medtronic, or anything else. YpsoPump weighs less than 3 ounces, 83 grams to be exact. That's less than a banana, if you were wondering. One of the reasons why the pump is so light is that it uses a small AAA battery, which lasts about a month. You don't have to worry about charging this pump or buying expensive lithium batteries. Plus, you can change the battery independent of the cartridge change. The pump is waterproof up to 60 minutes and up to 1 meter deep. I wouldn't take it snorkeling, but it will survive if you accidentally drop it in the toilet. Hit like if that ever happened to you. The pump is all black with a simple black and white touchscreen display and a wake button. Very simple but extremely practical and easy to use. What I love about this pump is how small and discreet it is. You can easily slide it into a very small pocket and hide under your clothes. And it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. The pump display is super high quality and almost impossible to scratch. That's a big plus, but unfortunately I cannot say the same about the pump body. Look how many scratches I have after 4 months of daily use. Of course, you can avoid these scratches by being super careful or using a case to protect your pump. But when you use the case, the pump gets a bit bigger. And I kinda like small things, if you know what I mean. Another thing that might be a bit controversial is the touchscreen. It's black and white only, no colors. The only information you see on the home screen is time, date, battery status, and current basal rate. If you scroll to the left, you will see information about the last correction dose you gave. If you scroll to the right and unlock the screen, you will get to the menu. Now the display can be really small because the pump doesn't really use much text. The menu is not complicated, it's rather simple and minimalist. You don't have to click through too many screens to quickly give yourself insulin or adjust your settings. The menu mainly uses icons that you can easily scroll through. You just have to learn to recognize the icons. And this might take some time, especially if you like me switching from another pump that was using text. On the other hand, the icons are fairly intuitive, and you can even flip the screen orientation upside down if you want to, which is quite a cool feature. The touchscreen is not as good as you might be used to from the newest iPhone, but it's comparable with other insulin pumps. Plus, you will most likely control your YpsoPump from a mobile phone anyway, but more about that in a minute. Let's talk about the cartridge and infusion set for this pump first. You can get either pre-filled cartridges, these are only available with NovoRapid and Humalog, or you can get empty cartridges, which you can fill manually with any other insulin types. Both cartridge types are made of glass, by the way. The cartridge of this pump can only hold 160 units, and that's a lot less than some other insulin pumps on the market, which typically have 200 to 300 units capacity. The small cartridge size is great because it makes the pump smaller and lighter, but if you need a lot of insulin, this can become a problem because you will have to fill the cartridge more often. I typically need about 40 units a day, so I usually refill the cartridge every 3 days, which is actually quite okay, because this also pushes me to change the cannula at the same time as I refill the cartridge. And that way I don't delay the side change any longer. To change your reservoir, you simply pop out the old cartridge, rewind the plunger, pop in a new cartridge, and connect the tubing. And here is how the YpsoPump Orbit infusion sets look. The tubing connection on them is really cool. It can rotate 360 degrees, so you can wear your pump anywhere and easily switch the angle of the tubing. For me, this is a big plus because it allows me to adjust the position of the tubing depending on what outfit I'm wearing or what activity I'm doing. When connecting connecting the tubing, it simply clicks in no matter what way the tubing is facing. You don't have to look and feel around to connect it correctly like some other pumps. That being said, this infusion is not low profile and sticks out a bit more than others, so it might be a little bit more noticeable. The tubing itself is blue, also quite unique and cool, and it allows you to easily see any air bubbles. The YpsoPump infusion sets come with two different cannula types. Orbit Soft, which is a soft 6 or 9 cm long cannula, or Orbit Micro, which is the thinnest steel cannula on the market. I tried both of them and I would pick the steel cannula all day long. For me, this is literally the best cannula I ever used. Super comfortable, I almost couldn't feel it, and it was very sensitive to my skin. I didn't have such a good experience with the soft cannula. The soft cannulas were leaving a bit of scarring on my skin, and I had to change them more frequently than the steel cannulas. Both cannula types come in different lengths, from 45 to 110 centimeters, and you can insert them with this small black applicator, which makes the process super easy and pain-free. The applicator is reusable, which saves a lot of plastic waste compared to the tandem pump, for example, where every single infusion set has an applicator in the package. I used this guy for 4 months and it still works like clockwork. Just don't forget to take it with you while traveling, because inserting the cannula without it can be quite annoying. One thing I want to warn you about is the adhesive. It is not very strong. I had to use an overpatch a few times to keep the cannula in place. By the way, the Freestyle Libre 3 and Dexcom G7 patches with the hole in the middle work perfectly with the YpsoPump site. I like the ones from Skin Grip, and I will put a link down below if you want to use them. Another thing that I really like is that the pump fills the tubing super fast, and so the whole process of refilling the cartridge and changing the site doesn't take more than a couple minutes. It's much faster than any other pump I tried. Before I get to more pump features and share my personal observations about this pump, I want to remind you that if you have any questions about YpsoPump or anything else, the best way to reach me is on my Patreon. If you join me there, you get quick responses to your questions, access to exclusive content, and it's a nice way to support what I do here on this channel. Link to my Patreon is down below. As I mentioned earlier, you can control YpsoPump using the touchscreen of the pump or your mobile phone. The old school manual way is not bad at all if you want to keep things simple. You can do everything including a pre-meal bolus with just a few taps on the pump screen. The bolus can be dosed in increments of 0.1, 0.5, 1 or 2 units, and you can use one of 3 different bolus modes that the pump offers. Standard bolus, where the pump delivers all the insulin right away, and extended bolus, where you can deliver the insulin over a given period of time between 15 minutes and 12 hours in increments of 15 minutes, or a combination bolus, which is a combination of the previous 2. There is a side button for a discrete insulin delivery too, so you can easily give yourself insulin without looking at the pump screen. If you decide to use the mylife app, you will be able to control your pump and dose insulin even more discreetly. The app works with both iOS and Android systems, and it also has additional features such as bolus calculator, information about insulin on board, comprehensive historical information, and an overall nice graphic interface. And you got it right, the bolus calculator and IOB information is not available anywhere on the pump. If you or your child don't use the app or can't carry the phone, you'll have to calculate how much insulin to give using the carb ratio and correction factor on your own. And you also have to remember if you have any insulin on board and how much. The idea behind this is to keep the pump simple and put the more sophisticated features in the app. So if you buy into this idea, you will absolutely love this pump even without the app. But YpsoPump can also be a very smart pump. You can use it with an algorithm which will automatically adjust your insulin dose 24/7. This tool is called mylife Loop, and it connects with your pump and your Dexcom or Freestyle Libre through another app called CamAPS. I won't go into too much detail about the hybrid closed loop right now because I already have a dedicated video about it on my channel. Link is down below. Now, regardless if you are looping or not, you will have to set your basal rates. The pump allows you to use increments of 0.01 units, and you can change the rate every hour. You can create up to 2 different basal profiles, which is super helpful for those of us working night shifts or for women on their period, for example. Again, this is a rather minimalistic solution, so if you need more than 2 basal profiles, or if you need to change your basal rate more often than every hour, you should probably look elsewhere or consider the hybrid closed loop I just talked about. Speaking of basal rates, you also have an option to temporarily increase or decrease your basal insulin from 0 to to 100% for a given period of time. You can set the temporary rate for the minimum of 15 minutes and maximum of 24 hours with 15-minute increments. To share your pump data with a caregiver or healthcare provider, you need to connect to the app. Once you set up your mylife cloud account, you can give them access, or your healthcare provider can also send you an invitation for you to share your data with them. And here are 5 more observations I have about YpsoPump that I just couldn't fit into any other category. Number 1. During the 4 months I used the pump, I got 6 to 8 error messages that I couldn't solve without taking out the battery and putting it back and restart the pump. Not a big deal because I could solve these errors pretty quickly, but I'm not quite sure what caused them. Number 2. The connector of the cannula and the tubing on the Orbit infusion sets is quite bulky and it might be visible under your clothes. I personally didn't mind it, but maybe it's something to consider for those of you who would prefer the cannula not sticking out too much. By the way, I've been told that there are alternative cannulas that you can use, but I didn't explore this area any further yet. Number 3 is about low insulin warning. This one can come really late with this pump. With most other pumps, you get a warning when you have 20 units of insulin left in the reservoir. YpsoPump uses your current basal rate projected for the next 12 hours. So if you are on a low basal, 0.5 units per hour for example, you can get the warning as late as when only 6 units of insulin are left in the cartridge. And for me this was something to watch out for so that I don't run out of insulin unexpectedly, especially if out of the blue I decide to eat a big meal. I might not have enough insulin in the cartridge if I'm not careful. Number 4. Many users reported to me that the pump often loses connection with the mylife app and it takes a while to re-establish the connection. I personally didn't experience this issue because I was using the pump with CamAPS app most of the time. But if you don't want to go for CamAPS, this might be something to consider. Number 5. The pump not only fills the tubing very quickly, it also doses pre-meal insulin very fast. And that can be a bit painful, especially when you need to shoot a big dose of an ultra-rapid acting insulin like Fiasp or Lumjef. I'm a big boy, so I can handle it, but if you are sensitive to these kind of things, then the fast bolus delivery might be something to consider. So should you get the YpsoPump? Well, if you're looking for simple, reliable, minimalist pump, then YpsoPump is definitely the way to go. I can absolutely recommend it. The pump on its own might be too minimalist, especially for those of you who like to use more sophisticated pump features. But if you use it in the combination with the mylife app, most of the potential issues will go away. The most amazing thing about the YpsoPump in my view is that it integrates with continuous glucose monitors, both Dexcom G6 and Freestyle Libre 3 as part of the mylife Loop insulin delivery system. This is a big deal because in the context of the closed loop, this pump becomes really smart and makes no compromises. So don't ignore this video where I review the algorithm and mylife Loop in detail and talk about all its pros and cons. I will see you there. Ciao.